Hey George, how you doing today?
I'm good, Dave. How you been?
All right. So today we're going to do a video on overwintering the two queen keeper.
Sounds like a great idea. It is the middle of September, so it's the season to sort of get your hives into the configuration that they're going to exist for winter. So we've had a great season this year with the two queen keeper. It's made between 200 and 300 pounds of honey, but now it's time to get it ready for winter.
All right, George. So go ahead and tell me a little bit about how this is configured right now.
Thanks for coming in a little closer. How you feeling?
Good, good.
Remember, two queen keepers are big hives, right? These are big hives that make a large amount of honey, and they're still big, even though the population's coming down. So let's go over configuration. As most of you know, the bottom box is our brood box. So the brood box has a 8-frame deep brood chamber here, an 8-frame deep brood chamber here, and a divider in the middle. One bottom board faces this way, the other bottom board faces that way. On top of the brood chamber, we have a standard 10-frame queen excluder. On top of the queen excluder, we have a 10-frame deep divided spacer box. And on top of that, we have our 10-frame deep exchange box. So exchange box, spacer box, queen excluder, brood box.
And when you say spacer and exchange box, what is that in reference to?
Yeah, so that's in reference to the Demery, right? So they're names that are given to boxes involved in the Demery swarm control. So up top is our exchange box. That has 10 frames in it. Basically, it's called an exchange box because when we Demery, we're taking brood frames from down here, bringing them up here, and either bringing blank foundation or drawn out comb down to here. So it's an exchange of frames between the brood chamber and the exchange box. So that's why we call it the exchange box. This is the spacer box. This spacer box does have 10 frames in it, so it is not empty. And it basically is giving space between the exchange box and the brood box because the Demery works basically by spreading out the nurse bees and the brood from the queen so that the hive isn't congested. So that requires some space, and that's why we call it the spacer box. Some people are thinking that the spacer box does not have any frames in it, Dave, but all the boxes have 10 frames in it. So the spacer box and the exchange box. So that's why we call this the exchange box. That's the spacer box. This is the brood box.
Right, and we use that same terminology on the one queen version too, because one of the ways that we like to manage this hive is by doing the Demery. That's our recommended form of swarm control, correct?
That's the way. That's the way we're doing it, Dave.
The way we're doing it.
So we have we have 4 boxes, right? So we have brood box, spacer box, exchange box, and supers above. Now the supers have come out because we're kind of done our honey harvesting for the year, but there would be the supers that are above the exchange box.
So yeah, okay, cool.
So what are we going to do today, Dave? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to get this hive ready for winter, which means we're going to take off the exchange box. We're going to remove the queen excluder between the brood box and the spacer box. So at the end of the day, we're going to have a brood box and a spacer box, and we're going to move the queen excluder up here. So that's what we're going to do.
Right. Yeah, and so normally, you know, with these hives, most of your inspections, you would be sitting. George, you want to pop open the window?
Yeah, this is my preferred. This is my preferred. This is mine and the 200 other people who have bought this hive. This is our preferred way of inspecting hives. We like to sit. We like to take a finger. We like to open up the look through our observation window. I'm not going to do it today, but you know we can get to all 8 of the frames without lifting any of the supers above. So that's
nice.
That is nice. And
this is the one time, maybe one of a couple times, depending on how you manage. But for today, you do have to do some box manipulation with 10 frame boxes. So
yeah, you know, usually when we do these inspections, we're not disturbing the colony. We're not breaking apart all the boxes.
Right.
But today's work is requiring us to remove the queen excluder, which requires taking off these boxes.
Yeah, so it is a good idea to maybe have a full suit on when you actually have to break it all apart. But no, let's get into it.
Yeah, no, that's what we're going to do, Dave. So just to FYI, two queen keepers get big, so just be aware there's going to be a lot of bees in here still, So
Yeah,
I think
protect me, George.
I see them flying around your camera now, Dave. So
Yeah,
let's get into it. So I got my smoker. I'm gonna undo my latch. Give these bees a little bit of smoke. Again, we're gonna open the roof so you can get a look at what's going on here. We're gonna remove our outer cover and our insulation board. Now this exchange box, about 2 weeks ago, had 10 frames of solid capped honey in it. Because we stopped demerying these frames basically in June. So July and August, they basically backfilled this all with honey. We harvested a little bit. We've moved some of this honey down into the brood boxes, and we've also made some splits using this. So right now, this box has 10 frames in it. It has a little bit of nectar in it, but not much. So this is going to be removed.
normally when you're going to do this configuration, yeah. We're not moving that down. The spacer box should have the honey in it, right?
Yeah, the spacer box has honey in it, and the exchange box will have honey in it.
Right.
Now, you can say, well, again, every hive's different. You can, when you get ready to overwinter this, you could say, well, there's some nice honey up there. Some of these frames aren't as full. You can move some of the frames from the exchange box into the spacer box. Ideally, going into winter, there's 5 frames on either side of the divider in the spacer box. So the
Let's look at the
bees,
divider, yeah.
here's your divider, Dave. So this separates the box into 2 parts, so the bees can't and the queens can't cross over.
Right, so it's 2 1 queen keepers, if you think of it this way. 8 frames, 5 frames,
Right.
5 frames, 8 frames.
Right.
It's just 2 of them back to back with dividers, queen excluders. Queens can't cross over. Right?
That's what we basically
That's
have.
what
We
it is.
basically have 2 1 queen keepers within one 2 queen keeper. So just a big hive, and you can see I'm moving slow. So
Take your time.
yeah, no, I'm not sure who's more excited about this today, the bees or me. Probably
Oh, there's some crawling on my screen right now.
Probably neither. So we're going to take this box off. This is going to be heavy because this is full of honey. Now, you could take the frames out of this individually instead of lifting this deep, but I'm pretty strong still.
You still got some, I see you've got some traditional Langstroth hives here.
Yeah, I got traditionals too that are basically either a single deep or a deep and 1 medium right now. They'll all go down to either a single deep or a deep and a medium going through the winter. And a deep and a 10 frame medium is basically the same as a deep and a 5 frame deep on top of it. Same amount of honey. So in a 5 frame deep, there's about 30 pounds of honey for overwintering. In a 10 frame medium, there's about 30, 40 pounds of honey. So pretty equivalent. So remember, in winter, you got to take the queen excluder out of the middle of the hive. The bees are going to move up in winter, so we don't want that queen excluder sitting between our brood box and our spacer box. So the queen excluder is going to get my hive tool. The queen excluder is going to come off. It's amazing, isn't it? You can see the hive opened up. It's just enormous, right?
Yeah, that platform.
So you have the platform that separates the 2 8 frame brood chambers. You can sort of see where the bees will move up into the spacer box. It's just beautiful. Beautifully big.
So now you've got to smoke them all down so you can move the box
back. Yeah, my goal, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the spacer box right here, right? But I want to minimize how many bees I crush doing this. So I'm just going to smoke them all down. They seem not to be too interested in moving down very much today. So there we go. So I moved them down. So we're basically going to take the spacer box
Nice.
How was that, Dave?
Pretty good. Pretty smooth.
So now this divider in the middle of this box goes from the top to the bottom of the box. So now the bees can't cross over. So you have this colony isolated to 8 frames and 5 frames, and this colony isolated to 8 frames and 5 frames. And you're going to see that the clusters are going to move up in the winter and end up in these boxes. And we're just going to take the queen excluder, and we're just going to set this right on top of there. And the divider comes up, meets the queen excluder, and there you kind of have it. And on top of that, we're going to put our
Insulation.
I really like 2-inch insulation at the top of the hive. That gives you an R value of R10 at the top of the hive. So I'll put my insulation at the top of the hive, and then I'll put my inner cover on top of it. So there we have it. So that's overwintering for how I do this. Now, you want to keep an eye on your bees through the winter to make sure they're doing well and not running out of food. On top of this queen excluder, you could put a medium box, an empty medium box, and put fondant up there or sugar bricks up there if you needed to. But pretty sure that these hives are going to have enough to survive the winter, and they'll be good. So I only got stung once, Dave.
Nice. Well, and
Not
the other
too
cool
bad.
thing about the keeper's hive, right? We showed this in a video last year at the Winter apiary with the one queen, but you can, if you want to at least just make sure there's bees in there, you can flip it open and look through the window, right? Because you put insulation in the roofs too.
We'll put a little bit of 3/4 inch insulation over the observation window for the winter. That's still to happen. You could wrap all this in insulation if you wanted to. I don't feel like it's necessary here in Pennsylvania, but you could put insulation all around this hive if you wanted to. But I definitely highly recommend a 2-inch piece of foam board insulation at the top. So there you have it.
Cool.